I went to Togo the first time in 2017 in the fall and got to spend 7 months there working at the hospital, serving as a nurse, and also helping train the nursing students in their nursing program. I returned back here in May of 2018 and was home for 6 months, resumed my job that I had at St. Alphonsus, and just felt like my ministry in Togo was not finished, that God wanted me to return. And so after 6 months of prayer and counsel, the Lord sent me back to Togo in November of 2018. And I was there till July of 2019. So my goal going back was to continue with the ministry that I had carried on in the first trip, continuing to work with the nursing students. They graduated in June of 2019, and so I really loved working with them and felt a burden to continue that ministry and see them graduate, and also continue to help fill the need for nursing staff in the hospital while they were still waiting for those students to graduate and be able to take over more of the work in the hospital. So we had some of the different things I did with the nursing students. When I arrived, they were still doing clinicals and also taking some classes during the week. So when I was one of the clinical instructors, there was one other nurse there from the United States, Caroline. So we were, along with some of the Togolese nurses, we were their clinical instructors each week. And that was about 2 shifts per week that we would do that. We had 15 students, only 2 of them female, and the rest were male. I also got to work, help teach a couple of seminars as well. So moving into their final semester in the spring of 2019, they started doing full-time preceptorship in the hospital. So they did full 12-hour shifts just like the nurses, and they didn't have a full class anymore, but we did have one-day Wednesdays where we would have half a day for a seminar, and we picked specific topics where we felt they still needed some instruction, and Caroline and I helped teach a couple of those seminars. And then came finally graduation, and we had a month of activities, getting ready for that. They were finishing up exams, finishing up their preceptorship. We got to do one-day trip, fun activity with them and take them all about 2 hours away to the city of Kara to an animal reserve where there were elephants, and they'd never seen elephants before. So that was a really exciting day to just spend with them and just have fun. One of our biggest prayers for the day of their graduation was the city of Mango. The town of Mango is majority Muslim community. Our students, most of them are from a Muslim background, and we were going to be inviting their families and friends and folks from the community to come to the graduation. And so being sensitive to those of Muslim faith, but we also wanted Christ to be glorified in the graduation ceremony. And so we were meeting regularly and having prayer meetings several weeks leading up to the event, just praying for that. And it was a packed event. We didn't have room for all the people that came for their graduation, for all their friends and family. It was a really exciting day, and the Lord definitely was glorified in the presentation, in the speech that was given by Alan Niles, who's one of the directors, one of the missionaries there, and also in Sharon Rahali and the speeches she gave. One of our biggest prayers for the nursing students is that they would come to know the Lord Jesus Christ as their personal Savior. And throughout the whole 3 years of the nursing program, they have heard the gospel multiple times. Every semester they had a Bible course that was taught to them by different missionaries and Togolese pastors. They also had a devotional every morning before class. and then just one-on-one conversations with different teachers. Up to this point, several students have expressed interest that they want to follow Jesus, but it's a very strong pull with their family, their culture, to be able to deny all of that, to follow Christ. So please continue to pray for all of our students, that gospel will continue to work in their hearts, and that we would see them make that profession of faith. I also worked in the hospital, so 2 or 3 shifts per week while I was working with the students, and then once they graduated in June, the last month I was there, then I worked full-time 4 shifts a week, along with our Togolese nursing staff. It's a challenging job in the hospital with patients. You have sad stories, you have happy stories of people recovering and going home, of patients hearing the gospel every day, and many of them making professions of faith and then returning to their villages, and out of that, Bible studies being started and then churches being formed. I'm going to tell you about one particular patient that was with us for about 5 months, and her name is Amina. She was about 10 years old. She came in with really severe burns. This was in January, and it was the dry season, and it's a little bit cooler during the Harmattan season in January, so she was there. Her family was out working in the field. She was napping. She had a paño, which is a cotton cloth, over her to keep her warm. She was near a fire, and so that caught on fire and just quickly engulfed in flames and burned all of her face, her arms, her back, and her chest. So the first couple months we were fighting just survival for her, to survive the shock, as the body goes into shock with the burns, and then you're fighting malnutrition and infection. And so our burn patients end up losing pretty much all of their body fat, and we're having to feed them through a tube that goes through the nose into the stomach so that they can get enough nutrition so that their body can fight off and keep from getting infections. So eventually, after a couple months of fighting that every day, that battle with her, and the severe pain that she was going through with debridements, she started to get better. She's with her mom in this picture. So the other part of the story is she was actually from one of the villages where one of the new church plants was, and her mom had been attending that church plant. This is in the village of Nachari, and the pictures are from the first. They had been meeting on Fridays for a couple years as a Bible study, and then they had their baptism, and this picture was their first Sunday morning meeting as a church in January, and then she came to us a few weeks after that. So there was a connection already with her mom and her family, and the chaplains knew her. And so as she continued to get better, we were able to maintain contact with her family. It was really exciting as she got discharged from the hospital, but still stayed on the hospital compound because she still had to come in for daily treatments every day for dressing changes and nutrition checkups. She was very quiet, wouldn't really talk, wouldn't really look at you, very, very reserved. And so I was super excited when one Saturday, we have a kids club Saturday mornings, and she walked up to our kids club, and that was the first sign I'd seen in her of any interest in interacting with anybody else other than her mom. And so after that, she started to become more social and continue to improve. And in June, just before I came home, she actually went back to her village. She was completely done with her treatments and got to go home. I've been able to keep in touch with some of the nurses that are still in Togo, and they go on a weekly basis to that village meeting on Sundays. So that my friend Annika, this picture is from October, sent me this picture, and then my friends tell me that she comes every week to church with her sisters, and she always has a smile on her face. So another prayer request, continue to pray for Amina and her family and the work of the gospel in her life as well. Another family, Togolese family that I got really close to, Yauvi, is the supervisor for all of the nurses in the hospital, and his wife Mawena, and then his niece, who's next to me, Denise, works in the pharmacy, and then his two sons, Josias and Nehemiah. So over the course of the 2 trips, I got close to his family. He also has a house church that meets in his home every week, and he leads that group. So on Sundays that I wasn't working or visiting a baptism or a new church that was just starting, I would go to Yauvi's house group. And there were a couple of ministries that he led that I had the joy of participating in as well. So one is the kids club that I mentioned that they have on the hospital compound every Saturday afternoon. And several of the MKs are involved in helping with that as well. But they have a pretty large group of kids that come every week, and they hear the Bible taught to them. And Yauvi leads that. There's a video, we'll see if it plays, of them singing one of the songs. So that gives you an idea of what the club looks like every Saturday. It's a majority of boys that come, and they love to play soccer out in the field, do other kind of more rough games. But they do have some girls that come, and they don't really go out and play soccer, and so they kind of hang out under the trees. So I would stay with the girls and try to interact with them and play some games with them. And several of them would usually have a little baby along with them that they were watching. And so we work with girls and babies. And that continues, that ministry with the kids every Saturday. Another ministry also was a community garden that Yauvi had the vision for with his house church. They have a ministry in their whole neighborhood, their community, where a lot of people know that they're believers, that they follow Christ, and come to them for help for different needs. And a lot of times they come for financial help. And so he was looking for a way that their church, their group, could minister to their community with financial help, but also showing the love of Christ in that way. And so this patch of land is down near the Oti River. So they use the water from the river to irrigate, and he got permission from the city government for the part you see where the fence goes around, that specific plot of land, to grow different vegetables there. And so we'd go out and help on Saturdays, sometimes during the week, prepare the ground. First we had to put up the fence, then preparing the ground, and then planting the seeds, irrigating, and then finally harvesting. Now, it was really fun to go out there because there are lots of other villagers that also are farming out there and gardening along the river. So it's very communal. You're talking to people share buckets, they share different things for irrigating and watering. And then when we were harvesting, a bunch of people just showed up and started helping us harvest the lettuce and wash it in the Oti River. So these ladies weren't even part of our group, but they just joined up and started helping. So They definitely have a testimony in their community, and I was able to talk to them a couple weeks ago, and they told me that they're doing the garden again this year. And so just pray for those ministries as they continue on. One other area of ministry that I have the opportunity to be a part of was with some of our neighbor ladies. So before I even arrived, some of my roommates had already started forming relationships with these ladies in our neighborhood. We lived in a house in town on a main busy street, and it's called the Mayberry House. And there were 5 of us that lived in that house at one time, 5 nurses. So we've got 5 different ladies that we've kind of gotten to know really well. 2 ladies had a little stall right in front of our house where they sold different random things. Asia was a seamstress, and she has a booth just down the street from our house, and she made most of our clothes for us. Biba is kind of the neighborhood grandma, and she also has a little booth down the street where she sells kind of random items as well. And then Asia's sister, Robbie, is a really good businesswoman, and she has quite a large stall in town in the market where she sells cloth. So over the course of the 9 months I was there, even before I got there, and the roommates that have remained have continued on, we would invite them over to our house. We'd have tea, coffee, sit on the ground together, eat together, play games. They absolutely loved pickup sticks. And then just having conversations with them, and opportunities come up once in a while to talk about spiritual things with them. So you can pray for these ladies as well, as I know that the girls that are living in the Mayberry house now have continued to that relationship with them. So that's kind of an overview of what my life was in Togo last year for 9 months. And I took a little detour in Europe with my brother, who's in the army in Germany, before coming home. And I came back here in October. So since then, I started a job at St. Alphonsus Medical Center in Nampa. I'm working in the ICU, which is a new level of experience for me as a nurse, working night shift, which has been a new challenge with scheduling. But I'm excited about the new skills I'm learning and how God will be able to use that in the future. And just involved at El Tesoro on Sunday mornings and attending here and serving here as well as Sunday nights. So at this point, I don't know what God's plan is for my future, if He would want me to go back to Togo again in the future, or if there's somewhere else He wants me to serve, or if He just wants me to stay here. But you can continue to pray for me as God directs my paths. And also, thank you for your continued prayers for the ministry at the Hospital of Hope as the Lord continues to work there as well.